Welcome to Muscular Minds Podcast, where we want to build mental toughness and resilience for you, your family, your faith, and your future. Thanks for joining us today.
All right, welcome to Muscular Minds. We're here tonight doing our high intensity workout for our mind with Sergeant First Class Scott Patrick, and he is a retired military, and we are excited to have him with us here tonight. We're always trying to learn new ways to be resilient when it comes to our mental fitness and physical fitness, along with how do we develop ourselves spiritually. And so he is here to talk to us about some of the things that he has learned through his military career, his time, and also he's a father of four. So we're blessed to have him here sharing his wisdom, his insights with us tonight. So welcome, Scott. We're glad to have you tonight.
Hey, thanks, Jared.
All right. Well, let's get started. I guess tell me a little bit about what got you into the service to begin with. Kind of what was your impetus for getting started in the beginning?
Ironically enough, it was something that I'd wanted to do in some way, shape, or form since I was 7 years old. I was raised that was like it was a very honorable thing to do. It's kind of a adventure, and I went in looking for that adventure. Physical fitness was something I fell in love with in the military.
Scott, a little bit about some of the challenges about just going through boot camp. To me, as somebody who's never been there, I mean, you see the movies, you see how tough that is. It seems really scary to those of us who are like, hey, can I survive this? Tell me a little bit about the boot camp experience, what it takes physically, mentally to get through that.
I wasn't an athlete growing up, like I said. Obviously, the physical aspect was a little more challenging, but the real grind, I suppose, of basic training is that you're being broken down over the course of this and then built back up as something new. And not only is that like a great metaphor for us spiritually, but that's just like it. We hone in so much on the physical, we kind of don't realize what's actually happening. Yeah, people are yelling at you and you're doing a bunch of push-ups, but so basic training's fairly long, like it's a month or two, and you adjust really quick to that physical abuse. Your body's really we're created for that. But what you're not ready for, and what actually, in my opinion, broke more people down faster, was just you're away from everything you had. Everything is new, and you must learn the same as everybody else, and you must accept the breaking. You have to accept that breaking and
Well,
take that
just to
step.
pause you right there, Scott. So what you're saying is it's more than physical. Like, 'cause I think most of us that haven't experienced something like boot camp just think, "Yeah, I could never do that physically." But you're saying that's a small piece of it. That might be the easiest piece,
Yeah,
but they're going to be trying to intentionally break you down
immensely.
mentally. And so explain what's the purpose of this?
So you're developed there. Everybody pictures the drill sergeant when you picture basic training. The drill sergeant's purpose is to mold somebody that's capable of protecting everybody else. So for that, you need an individual that is, I hesitate to use the word higher caliber, but you need a very high drive in that person. And it's not a natural thing to be able to just, no matter what you're put against, be like, well, I'm here, so I'm going to win. That's not natural. Like, it's very easy, it's very comfortable to look at insert challenge here and say, that's just too much. That's hard. I don't want to do that. That's uncomfortable. That's inconvenient. It's easy. It's natural for us to do that. So the drill sergeant's job is to take that mindset and mold it into something new. It's not something that inherently everybody has. And the physical part that everybody locks in on is just the foundation, like you pointed out. They're really using that whole length of time, that whole process to shape that. And something people in the current Army, the basic training I went to was much different, but something that they've changed recently that's very good is they've added something called the Forge. And that's where for about 10 days, you're just we call it ruck marching. You're moving from objective to objective, and they get progressively longer every day. So you don't get a day off. You're just rucking and rucking and rucking. And there's stuff to do at the objectives too, but the forging aspect of it is this ruck, because that's even
So
me in
explain
basic.
rucking. Is it like is this the backpack marching? Like, what do
Yes.
okay.
So this is like aggressive hike. You have in basic training, it's a 35 to 45 pound pack. It's on a frame. It's like nice and tight to your back, and then you have to carry a weapon in your hand, usually depending on your instructor and cadre and just what cycle you are. You may or may not have a sling for that rifle. A lot of hunters will, they'll sling that over their shoulder and go. No, you got to hold it in your hand, and that rifle's just heavy enough. Your arm is engaged as all those hours of hiking and rucking. You're squeezing that rifle to keep it in your grasp because it must be in your hand.
So I'm
I think.
hiking for hours. I'm carrying this rifle for hours.
Mhm.
And I camping out, or are you going back to forth to the camp, or how does it?
So for the forge, what they do now, it's a great picture. So I'm going to use that. They move from objective, then they have so many tasks they have to complete before they can move to the next objective, and they have to sleep wherever that objective was. So they have to learn like there is no cease to the education that they're getting, right? They have to figure out how to set up camp in a way that they can pack it up at the moment's notice, because they are very quickly interrupted, and then they move to the next one. And we had something similar. It was just a lot more focused on the tasks and less on the rucking. I actually liked the change because there was so much downtime with the tasks that the battle was staying awake, not so much. Our last week of training in boot camp for me, our challenge was, hey, you're basically not sleeping for this last 4 days, right? So like, stay awake. That was the hard part. Now it's the movement, and I like that aspect because it keeps you actively engaged. Both work. I just like the new one. But no, the beautiful thing about the ruck marching, that aggressive hiking, if you will, it doesn't matter if you were like me in boot camp. I didn't have an athletic background, or if you're an athlete. Athletes are used to regimented working out. They're used to recovery time, good nutrition. They're used to plenty of sleep. You do not get that when you're rucking like this. So by day 2, everybody's on the same page. It doesn't matter. You're all equally suffering, and you're all finding ways to get yourself through it. So that's something that's what I picture when I say you're allowing yourself to be broken down and built anew. That's kind of the picture I see.
And it feels like whether you want this to happen or not, it's going to happen. What's the
Yes,
washout rate about, like, out of what percentage of people like get washed out of boot camp?
it's about 30% will wash out.
Okay. Wow. And that's even after the enlistment, I have to do so many of this, push-ups, this many miles, whatever. That's even just so I'm eligible to go to boot camp. And then 30% of those people get washed out.
Or recycled, yes. So if depending on the extent of the failure, they might wash out and get more training and then go back. And there's a whole process that I'm not familiar with to that. But
Okay.
but 30% is a good figure.
Do you think it's more physically washing out, or is it the mental thing that breaks people?
What I saw was mostly mental. Like, I had never seen people that was kind of I didn't realize what I was seeing at the time, but it was my first exposure to like mental health problems. Because the majority of the people that washed from my cycle were for panic attacks. You can't be a victim of like frequent and severe panic attacks and be in the military. And there was a few soldiers that had panic attacks, and it was just they were being exposed to new things very fast. There was high standards, and they couldn't process it. And I thought that was absolutely wild at the time. Like it, later on, I'd see more of it. The next time I saw it would have been in Afghanistan.
So why don't we transition, Scott? To, I know you did a lot of training. Why don't you?
Okay.
We've talked before about how you had this drive and this desire to kind of always level up. Walk me through kind
Yeah.
of some of the training that you did and that you desire to do that. If you kind of help me understand that.
Yeah. So to close out basic training kind of picture, at the end of that, regardless, the drill sergeants have made this, they've instilled this drive in you. People a lot of times will have almost a negative connotation to it, like, oh, that kid, looking at some 18-year-old boy, that kid needs structure. He should join the military. It's almost like condescending. But what they don't realize is that structure is magic, right? You take some kid that just doesn't know what he wants to do, but he just wants to go. He wants to level up now, right? He's realizing I can do these things. That structure is how they did that. That kid may have shown up like, hey, the day's hard. I can't do the day. There's too much going on. There's these standards, new place, new people. I don't know anything. Like, this is all new. They broke it. They made it really easy for him. All right, make your bed. Okay, you made your bed. Good. Go work out. Okay, that was easy for you. Go eat breakfast. Hey, go back to the training area. Now we're doing this training task. And all the way through his day, everything is chunked up. And that developmental process is, in my opinion, that's the best way to artificially create resilience. Because it's, like we said before, it's not necessarily natural. Some people are blessed, but many of us, myself included, I was not. Like, that was a shell shock, but that process is effective. And then the result of that process is individuals, again, assuming we have chosen to be broken and rebuilt, these individuals, it doesn't matter what you threw at them. That the mindset is now, I've shown up, so I'm going to win. The battle's already won. I showed up. I will find a way. It will be won. So that kind of became an intoxication effect for me throughout the next couple parts of my career. Military doesn't stop at basic training. That's all right. Now you're in the club. That's not like, okay, now you can join Boy Scouts. That's not your merit badge, right? So then I was like, I thought I did this cool thing. I'm all right. I'm a soldier now. This is awesome. And then I get to my unit and they're like, cool, dude. Everybody here is a soldier. Why don't you go do something that actually matters? I was like, oh, that wasn't even expecting that level, right? And then resilience is tested right away, right? And that created this hunger, this drive I sought out anything I could do to kind of go to the next level. I was like, okay, well, I can do hard things now. So like, I won't pan over, but like, there's these things called challenge marches, or there are things like the Norwegian Ruck March, 17-mile or 17.75-mile Ruck March. You must hit a certain time standard and a certain weight. I became obsessed with that. I did it until I came I did one in Jordan. I came in 10th out of 213 people. And that was multiple armies were there. Like, it was pretty high visibility for where we were at. It was one of the first times that America did stuff like that in the Middle East as like a power play. Hey, we have it so locked down in a war zone that we can play. Came in 10th out of 214 some odd people. Did the Baton Death March in New Mexico, which is a 50-mile march over a couple of days through a desert. I sought out those things. I did 3-gun competitions. I did long range shooting, and I wasn't a combat MOS, but the Army didn't care. They're like, this is a competition and it's open. And I went and I found competition after competition. I would become obsessed with it to the point that I would place generally in the top 10%.
Trained yourself physically and mentally to be able to go do these incredibly hard things. And it sounds like um, your mental toughness and focus allowed you to achieve things that you probably didn't even think you were capable of before you went in. Like, to see yourself doing it.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, absolutely. And then that actually led to a very interesting career progression. I came up in the blue collar side of the Army, so fabrication, mechanics, nothing Army like esque that you'd think of, but because of my competitions, I also went to stuff like the Best Warrior stuff. I won that at the division level once. But that gave me an opportunity to go be a foreign military advisor, because at the time they wanted a certain percentile of soldier, and so they were looking at all these competition winners who could also perform in their job. So they opened it up. That was traditionally a special forces only role, which is like, that's a very select group of people. There's me, and then there's like probably another tier that outperforms me, and then there's these guys, right? Uh, freaking, they were so overwhelmed with this specific foreign advisory mission that they opened it up to a select group, but they were like, we're not opening this up to just the conventional army. We want the top 10% of the soldiers in their job, in their field. So I met that standard. I was able to go to a selection process, and I got the job that moved us to Texas. I worked as a foreign military advisor in the Middle East for several years. Best job I've ever had. Loved it. And they furthered that, right? They made it that same competitive drive that got you there. They fostered it. So they would hold internal competitions, and they'd be like, all right, do this crazy physical set of stuff, right? And then you have to shoot, which is like a mental thing. Now you have to slow your body down, focus your mind, you work on your fundamentals, take a shot, or multiple. Or they'd make series of them. Or, hey, do all this hour of physical stuff, and now, hey, you have this set of medical issues on this patient. Do all the interventions that you're taught to do. All right, run an IV. All right, do this. What medications are you pushing? All right, you're wrong. Do 100 burpees. All right, now do it again. Like, stuff like that.
Tell me about your mental focus and your desire to push yourself to do hard things. And you finally got a chance to have to put all this to practice. Tell me about um, a little bit of your combat tours, or maybe a really tough scrape, if you're okay sharing that you ended up in. Do you mind
Yep.
sharing a little bit about that?
No, absolutely. I'll keep it to the less kinetic one, because I found this more challenging. When the situations are black and white, it's fairly easy to, all right, I see the path forward. It's obviously this is the thing I have to do. What I found more challenging on my deployment to my first deployment to Afghanistan was when we found ourselves in that high stress combat-esque situation where there was a lot of pressure on us at the time to make the right decision and be able to back up every single action that we took. And that issue was compounded when we had very new leadership, and a lot of our experienced guys had just not come. A lot of us were super green, myself included. This was my first deployment, and we were a route clearance company in Afghanistan. This was not an opportunity I was supposed to have, but because of poor decisions on the part of others, I got sent with very little notice to Afghanistan with the route clearance company. And gr- some of the best time in my career, in my life, just to be around a bunch of people that were also driven. The route clearance people are the ones that are driving down the roads looking for IEDs, those improvised explosive devices, looking for those VIGA-BIDs, those vehicle-borne IEDs. And we ended up finding a ton of them. So you have to find these and either set them off or find them. And that was our purpose. Didn't slow us. Like, I think we actually laughed. Like, there were several of us that laughed, which was not the right answer, but just to give you a picture of the drive there, right? We were so driven to do what we had come there to do. We were like, well, we're here. We'll find them. But one of the worst situations, again, I find that it was harder when the answer wasn't clear. If somebody's shooting at you, the answer is clear. But there was a road that we had named Route Jose, and we were clearing down this road. So your driver, your gunner, those people are stuck in the vehicle. They don't get out. And then we had about, I want to say it was 16 or less people that were dismounts. And then of those, some of those guys had like minesweepers, and they were doing our job, right? They're trying to find those IEDs. And I'm not sure what happened at the front that started it, but there was an incident at the front. I was second vehicle from the back for this particular run. Something happened up front, started a commotion in the town that is on Route Jose. We estimated it around 2,000 inhabitants in the area of this town that are like right there on family compound. They have like a full market district. We're right in the middle of the market district. So there's 26 of us, right? And that commotion starts, and it starts to spread like wildfire. And it got to the point where we had to stop the vehicles. We pushed out all of our dismounts, trying to keep them off the people so we could continue doing the job, right? But then that got immediately problematic because they wouldn't move, and our dismounts started trying to physically move them. That went horribly. More people showed up. It got to the point where we're like frantically radioing back to base because, like I said, there's a ton of pressure on us to make the right call. And this is a village. This is not people shooting at us. The village is just rioting at this point. And we frantically radio back. We're like, hey, what do we do if we drive? We're not sure if they're going to move. They should, but like, this is insane. Like, they shouldn't be doing what they're doing right now. Like, we either drive through them or we have to shoot our way out. And either way, like, a lot of these townspeople are going to get killed.
A lot of people are going to die.
Yeah. And like, nobody in that convoy wanted to make that call.
Right.
So we push it up, and then we get almost immediate response. All right, just button up. We'll see what we can do. And we're
that means just everybody get inside the vehicles?
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, that's scary.
That was absolutely wild because we're just like, well, our vehicles are 250 meters apart. So like, we have just a cluster of people that are moving outside the vehicles, and then one or two people in each vehicle. So like, that's sketchy because, I'm sitting here almost 1,000 meters back, and there's a crowd that's that long pushing in on us in between the vehicles. They're like trying to move dismounts. So they ended up piling all these dudes into like 3 trucks because they just didn't want to push back that far. And it got to the point where they started climbing. Our trucks were outfitted with these nets of like magnets that would not catch RPGs, but they'd set them off outside the hull of the truck so that the actual explosive didn't damage the truck or penetrate the truck. It would rock it really bad, but it would save you. They started climbing those nets. They were cutting them. They were pulling stuff off our truck. Like, we had, before this incident, we had like put all of our extra or just awkward heavy gear. We would tie it to the outside of the truck so that we could just get it that way. So we'd have like rucksacks with like what have you in there. They started cutting those open, ripping everything out of them. They took the extra fuel cans off the truck. They're ripping like rear view mirrors off, and we were like frantically radioing. We had very limited less than lethal options. We expended those in like 4 or 5 minutes. We were out. We were just frantically trying. Like, we had like stinger grenades, which is like a riot control grenade with rubber ball bearings. We went through all of those that we had. They had zero effect. It was like getting to the point where we were buttoned up, but we were just waiting for them to figure out how to pry open one of the doors and get into the trucks. And once they figured out one, they're all the same.
How did y'all get out of that?
So we ended up, we're like, the call finally goes back to the command. We're like, hey, if they open up the first truck, we're driving out. And they're like, absolutely not. Stand down, stand down, stand down. Sit tight. Which is like the worst thing to hear over the radio, right? Because we're all just sitting there listening to the lieutenant talk to him on our headsets, and we're just like, oh my gosh, we're gonna die. And then about 10 minutes, it was start to finish it. This couldn't have been more than like 15 minutes after the first initial call. So it was really fast, but it felt so long. Maybe 20 minutes after that first radio transmission, They sent in 4 Apaches, which is our heavy attack helicopters, and they flat hovered, which means I don't understand exactly what the rotors do, but they're pushing a ton of air down. It's extremely loud and uncomfortable to be under, and it'll create a dust storm right underneath it. And they flat hover literally 10 feet over the top of our vehicles, and they shot white phosphorus like chaff and flare, which is it's not a weapon. It's just basically a bunch of sparks and
Kind of
metal
meant to
bits.
disperse, I guess, the crowd.
Well, it was actually meant to. It's like a diversion, or if it's receiving RPG fire, like a rocket propelled grenade, they'll
Gotcha.
shoot chaff and flare to catch that and set it off. So they actually dispersed their safety net for themselves to kind of disperse the crowd, and it worked beautifully. We were able to drive out, but like that was real, and it takes real work, and like the team cohesion part is just critical. Like, they didn't have time to tell us what they were doing, but they obviously, like, hey, these guys are in trouble. They saw it. We trusted them, and they were able to make it work out, and we were able to all get through it as a team. And that was just picturesque.
I appreciate you sharing that story. I know that sounds terrifying, and like an image from Black Hawk Down, the movie, where the city is bearing down on you. And Scott, I certainly appreciate your service and coming on with us tonight and sharing. I think you've done a lot of awesome things, and I appreciate you taking time to talk with us tonight. And God bless you in your next adventure in retirement. And we look forward to maybe talking to you again sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. And as always, we talk about mental fitness and mental toughness here on Muscular Minds. You can check out our other podcasts at muscularminds.com or our YouTube channel. And we're excited we've had Scott here tonight, and we look forward to talking to him again. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining Muscular Minds today, where strength isn't measured by how much you lift, but who you lift up. And that starts with you.